We are going to get started tonight on the Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles Challenge, and we are going to spend 10 days together in a challenge in the NewtoCoaching group, making sure that you can get your coaching cycles started. So I am so glad that you are here with me tonight. How is everyone? Okay, so tonight we're doing the Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles Challenge. We're going to kick it off tonight with some energy for you to get started. So let me go back to this. Our 10-day challenge is going to focus on challenging you a little bit, to challenge your thinking, to activate your plan so that you can kickstart your coaching cycles and start coaching teachers. That is the goal. That is what we are trying to get to, is to help you break through so that you can start coaching teachers. So tonight we're going to get started with this conversation, but it's going to continue throughout the 10 days. And I have another live session next Monday. So 2 live sessions, 2 Mondays in a row. We're going to be getting together and talking about this work of figuring out how to start coaching teachers. So I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much for your patience with me and my slight technical difficulty. We can get through that, can't we? Okay, so you will be able to, by the time we are done with this 10-day challenge, you will be able to break through, friends. The thing is that coaching is hard. And we've talked about that so much here in the NewtoCoaching group. And sometimes we just need a way to break through the resistance that we face with teachers and with coaching cycles, to break through the overwhelm, whether we are overwhelmed as coaches or you are finding your teachers to be overwhelmed, or the busyness that we are faced with as well. And those things are always like roadblocks in our way as we are trying to get our coaching cycle started. And so we are going to break through those things together. So I'm going to be sharing with you something that I've designed here during the Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles Challenge, and it is the organic coaching cycle. And the organic coaching cycle has come out of my 10 years as a coach. This is my 10th year out of the classroom as a coach. And I have, through my experiences, not just because I, wrote it up and thought, oh, I'll just start teaching this, but through my experiences, I've developed something that has worked for me over the 10 years to make coaching cycles more organic and more natural for you, the coach, and for the teacher. And so I can't wait to share all of that with you tonight. So as we get going, though, I need to know who is out there and what, and about your coaching. So I want you to tell me if you are a building coach. Do you stay in one building and work with just the teachers in that building? Are you a district level coach? Maybe you're working with multiple buildings, or you sit under the umbrella of the district. Or maybe you're a tech coach and you are, you could also be district or building. But tell me a little bit more about the type of coaching that you do. That's where I want us to start, because I want to see who's here, so that we can talk about how the things that we're going to talk about tonight are a little bit different based on the different type of coach that you are. So definitely drop that in there for me so I can see. Got building coaches. Hi, Kim. Aaron, one building, all kindergarten. Okay. All right. Building coach for high school, but still teaching. Okay. All right. Okay. One building. Brand new first year coaches. And anybody out there who's just started coaching, like just now this month in January, I'd love to also know about that as well. So this is so great. Okay. I want to learn more about SPED coaching. Right now, I work with special education students for evaluations. That's awesome. Okay, K-8 coach, 5 buildings. All right, 5 buildings. It makes it difficult to start coaching cycles when you are in 5 buildings. All the things, K-5 teaching and learning coach. Okay, this is really helpful. I think it's helpful for us to really consider, as we're talking tonight, the different things that we will face with the idea of coaching and coaching cycles when we are different types of coaches. So first year literacy coach, high school, feeling very overwhelmed. Okay, that's very real. That is very real. Hi, Patrice, how are you? And middle school, awesome. K-8 one building. Have been in up to 4. Okay, so, all right, this is all going to be really, really helpful. Okay, a couple of things that I want to get started on for us. I just want us to get started with some real talk. Tonight, we're going to start with some real talk. I want to hear a little bit more about what it is that are the challenges that you're facing right now. And then I want to share with you some of the things that I have tried and I use in my organic coaching cycle to help coaching cycles feel more natural and to help you get started with coaching. So and then at the end of the session, I'm going to share with you even more resources for coaching cycles. So I want you to try and stay all the way to the end so that you can get access to all of those resources that are going to really help you keep going with this over the 10 days of the challenge. So my first question for you is a real talk question. So let's just dive right into this because you guys are awesome in the comments right now. The more you're in the comments, the more energy this is for us to talk through things. So here's my question for you. What makes it so hard to start coaching cycles? What have you experienced so far that is the thing that seems to be the roadblock for you for starting coaching cycles? What is making it so hard for you? And I've seen a lot of comments in the NewtoCoaching group when I was asking about what people are thinking about coaching cycles right now. So I've seen some things, but I would really love to hear some of the things that you've got on your mind. Low morale, negative attitudes. Okay. Looking for more resources. I don't fully understand. Hold on, I want to go back to that one. I don't fully understand the coaching cycles and what they are. This is so important. This is why I really like to do this challenge, because a new coach, and honestly, even a coach who's been in it a year or two, still has like a lot of fuzziness around like, what is a coaching cycle after all? What is it we're trying to get to? Why are we trying to get to this thing after all the other things I'm being asked to do? Teachers not wanting to participate. Hi, Stacy. Heather, teacher buy-in, not fixing teachers, but driving student growth, really wanting to make sure that it is. Okay, so just straight up resistance. I'm not sure how to initiate with teachers when I haven't been in the classroom for a few years. Okay, so that is a great one too. Just like not even knowing how to enter into it, how to initiate, just resistance and time. Expectations from the district. And yes, I mean, the union thing has been very real for some of the conversations that I've had with coaches who are in those situations. Lack of lesson planning, low morale, teacher anxiety, just overall teacher overwhelm. Teachers just not interested. Teachers feel bogged down with all the things that the county is asking them to do. Time and change in the district's coaching system. Teachers just don't have time for coaching cycles and they want a quick answer. Okay. Spread very thin, 5 schools, 100 teachers. So this is very difficult for the district level coach. Time for teachers to meet and go through the steps of the coaching cycle and making sure that that's all happening. Okay, so some of those same things just keep coming up. So these are really great. I was asked to start a coaching cycle with a long-term sub. I've been pushing into classes, observing, and just sensing some resistance. So, okay, very real. Teachers not engaged in coaching or resistance. This is just, it's so hard when this is the roadblock that we keep getting. Other responsibilities getting in the way. This is also another one that I see a lot, which is that you are being bogged down with a lot of other responsibilities as well. And so when you are thinking about coaching cycles and what you have on your plate, these are some of the same questions that I was seeing in the NewtoCoaching group. And the thing that just keeps coming up a lot is feeling like teachers are resistant and that the ones that you're talking to are not interested and that they don't want to engage. Sometimes the thing that we need most is understanding how to make this idea of coaching cycles and not feel so formal. It really is a little bit, I mean, it's hard sell. It's a hard sell to teachers when they do have all these things that they have going on and they are being asked to do all these things from the district. And then on top of that, you're asking them to commit to a 6 week coaching cycle, a 12-week coaching cycle, something that feels long term, like this long commitment. And that often can just send them running for the hills. And so, what we're doing with the organic coaching cycle is really I want to help you think about how you can make these conversations that you're having with teachers more meaningful, so that you can have more organic and natural conversations with them that turn into further work together. So I think one of the first things we need to do is to think about reframing what is a coaching cycle into a definition that might give it a little bit more flexibility. So let me show you my definition that I use with the organic coaching cycle, so that you can use this as a way to start reframing how you think about what a coaching cycle is. So somebody mentioned they don't really know what a coaching cycle is or how to use it and all the steps, and it feels very formal. What I have found in my 10 years as a coach is that a coaching cycle is an ongoing collaboration and partnership with a teacher. And then it's usually around a specific student focused goal. And so those things are like, okay, well, maybe that's like a coaching cycle, but the idea of ongoing collaboration and partnership is the idea that it is not necessarily something that has to happen in a certain time frame, but instead something that is an ongoing, I like to say touch point, an ongoing touch point with a teacher that helps you move her forward through the different interactions that you have with her throughout the day. And then it can become a lot more casual than formal, so that she can maybe be a little bit more open to the whole idea of a coaching cycle in the first place, is if you are approaching it as something that is just an ongoing partnership with a teacher. And then around a specific student focused goal is that once you have gotten into a conversation with a teacher and identified something that she wants to work on and that she sees as a student concern or something in her classroom, then you can help to identify, like, what are you working on together? What are you doing together in the classroom that is going to help move students forward? And once you've identified the partnership work that you're working on together, you can start moving forward. So the idea of a coaching cycle, if we start shifting it from this very formal 6 to 8 weeks, certain meetings, certain things, and try and make it into an ongoing collaboration, we're going to really start to see some of the walls of the resistance break down as we're thinking about what this is, this coaching cycle thing. What if you could finally break through and finally start these coaching cycles with teachers? What would that do for you in your mind? So if you want to answer that in the comments, I would love to know, like, what is it that this would create for you? I think, without reading your mind, I think that one of the things that coaching cycles would do for you is help you feel like you're making the bigger impact that you actually came out of the classroom to make. I know that you didn't leave the classroom so that you could be just faced with a bunch of resistance and feel like you're not making any progress. That is not what you came out of the classroom for. You thought you would be able to help teachers and help students by helping teachers. And so this thing that we need to break through, that we need to come through, this idea of starting coaching cycles, we need to break through that so that you can get to the deeper impact that you want to make. Kim says, I feel that I am helping with student success. Yes, you would feel like you were. If you could get it into a coaching cycle, you would feel like you were. But right now, what we are finding is that as a in general, I hear from the coaches that I'm talking with, coaches are often asked to do a lot of other things other than just coaching. And so you've got PD and PLC, and then you've got other duties as assigned, and you have a lot of things that are kind of coaching. They're related to coaching. Sure, some of you are doing a lot of testing stuff this part of the season right now, but you're not really getting to the actual coaching work, the one-on-one coaching work. That is the work that is in the middle of this target that I have up on the screen, because this is the work that you want to get to so that you can actually start doing the work that is going to see an impact change. Okay, so the goal is that our students can improve. So why are we trying to get there? We're trying to get there so our students can improve, students can be impacted positively, and have others want to jump on board. I love that. would feel like that I would get to do the job I thought I was hired to do. That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice to get to do the job you thought you were hired to do. And you would want students to be so successful and joyful in classrooms. But this is what we're trying to get to. We need to get to this breakthrough. And what we need to get to is the center of the target. The other things that are on your plate are going to they're sometimes going to stop you from getting to the one-on-one coaching work, and we really want to get you all the way to that place. And the reason is that even though we have the opportunity and the ability to impact change from more whole group settings like your PD or your PLC settings, the real change in a teacher's classroom happens at the individual level. You just got to think about this with me for a minute. I mean, I know that it can be really frustrating when you are doing PLC or PD and you're trying to help teachers do something, and then they go back to their classroom and they don't change. Nothing changes. These things don't actually change. And when when teachers are in those group environments, they can learn something and it can sometimes transfer. But what you have in the opportunity to coach them one-on-one is the opportunity to actually help them like deal with and work through the problems and questions and issues that come up when you're trying to implement something new. And so that work right there, that's why coaching exists. Because if PD was enough without coaching, I'm not sure we would have a job. Teachers would just go to PD and then they would just go to their classrooms and magically implement it. Like, you are the bridge between PD and implementation of some of the things that are being taught. And that is the important work. And so what we have to remember is that the change actually happens at this individual level. And so if you're not able to get to this, if you're not able to break through and find yourself in a place where you're working with teachers one-on-one, I know that you will not feel like you are making progress. You will feel as though you keep hitting walls, you keep hitting, you're not making progress, you keep hitting resistance, and you just are hearing, you're not getting the full picture almost, because you are only seeing the PD or PLC version of these teachers, and you're not getting to work with them at the one-on-one level. So what we have to do is help you get to the one-on-one level and know that it is so, so, so important for you to get there. If you haven't had an opportunity to get there yet, that's okay. Like, especially as a new coach, if you've been pulled a million different directions, you've had busyness, you've had overwhelm, you've had principal telling you 100 things to do, you're the testing coordinator. It's okay if you haven't gotten there yet. But I also want you to know that it's important to start working on this piece. Start putting something else down so that you can start picking this piece up. And then we've got to figure out how to get through this resistance and these teachers who say they don't want to and they're not interested and they don't want to work with you. We've got to work through some of that as well. So Elizabeth says yes to that. Teachers like the idea of change, but struggle making that first step. And they just revert back to what they've been doing. That is very, very common. It's even possible and possibly common in a coaching cycle. I had somebody post that just the other day in the group. Like, I worked with them in a coaching cycle and then I went back into their classroom and nothing changed. That's why it has to be an ongoing partnership, because if we're trying to create change in a teacher's practice, it may take an entire school year for her to become comfortable using a strategy or using a new tool. And so it's going to take a lot longer than we think. And so we have to help be that ongoing support for them. And so let's talk about why this is so important, okay? Because I think in some ways we've kind of been told wrong about the whole, not just coaching cycle thing, but coaching thing in general. Okay. Because when you are trying to start a coaching program and you're trying to get coaching going and you're trying to break through, one of the things that seems like we don't realize is we're kind of being told to work with the wrong teachers out of the gate. And I know you've probably felt this a lot as well. But this is actually the adoption cycle model. This is not just about coaching. This is about anything like your new iPhone or whatever you have. The adoption cycle is something that can happen with any kind of product. But what happens with the adoption cycle is that when a new iPhone is released, you have your small minority of innovators and what they call early adopters, here, which is like a little bit like around 20% of people who will be the first ones to run out and get that first version of the new thing. So the new iPhone. And that is the people who are willing to try the new thing and are not really afraid of change and are willing to kind of work out the kinks and the bugs for everybody else. But everybody else is going to wait until the early adopters and the innovators have worked out all the kinks before they come along. And so when it comes to building a coaching program, you have to think about how to work at the front end of your coaching program. Your innovators and early adopters are the ones that are going to move coaching forward, and the rest of them are going to come along eventually. And as you see out there on the red, you've got 15% of them that are laggards, that are like, your grandpa who's never going to go get that iPhone 15 because he doesn't even know that it exists, right? So you're going to have this kind of, bell curve here of coaching, of early adopters who are interested in coaching. And I think the thing that we're told as we start out with coaching cycles and with coaching is that we should start with the ones on the other end. We should start with the ones who don't want coaching, who are not interested, and who are going to just put their feet down no matter what, because those are the ones that sometimes our admin will tell us to work with because they're concerned about them and they feel like, these are our concern teachers or the ones that we need to fix, right? But I am going to really try and encourage you as we are working through this together that you have to start looking at the other end of the spectrum. The early adopters are the ones who are going to help you break through with coaching cycles, and they're going to be the ones that are going to actually help you start coaching cycles because they're more interested in that work. So let me tell you about the early adopters. I got this question. Hold on. I got this question from the group this week. How do you even start the coaching cycles? How do you even get them started? Do you just dive in with new teachers or keep the veteran teachers refreshed? This is my first year, and what a transition that has been. I'm sure that so many of you absolutely identify with this comment. And if you're out there, thank you for posting it in the group earlier this week. So what we have to do is realize that there is a group of teachers out there who is ready and interested in working with us. Now, sometimes it feels like they're hard to find, but I call them the runners. And I want you to be encouraged that that they are out there. This is Ron Clark's book, Move Your Bus. And he talks about this framework of kind of like people in your company. He talks about it as a business book, actually. And he talks about having the people on the bus move the bus forward with their feet. And so he says that at the front of the bus, you have the runners, and they are the ones who are going to be propelling the bus forward and making the most momentum with their feet. You have the joggers who are kind of running behind them. You have the walkers who are just walking, not making as much momentum. And then you have the riders who have their feet up and they're just riding along. And so Ron Clark introduces this whole model of how you might consider the people in your organization. And instead of working on getting the riders to put their feet down and start walking and adding propelling to the bus, what he actually recommends, and he talks about in this whole book, is pouring energy into the runners. And the runner teachers, the runners in an organization are the ones who are going to propel this organization forward. And so I've used this for a while as a way to kind of identify who it is that is the group of teachers that's out there that's interested in working with you, that is going to be willing to start coaching cycles with you. They are the runner teachers. And the thing is that they really are out there, and I can prove it to you because you were a runner teacher. And so those runner teachers who are out there are like you were in the classroom. And so what happens with a runner teacher often is, you remember this, okay? So a runner teacher is often left alone. She's left alone. A runner teacher is often left alone. She is thought of as great and not worried about. And she is often just highly regarded, but she isn't really on anybody's radar. And when she's not on anybody's radar, nobody really pays attention to her. And I know you know this feeling because you were a runner teacher in the classroom. And that's kind of what led you to stepping out into being a coach, because you were always willing to grow and change, always willing to change something in your classroom, always trying the things, always going above and beyond, always willing. And you probably never had the opportunity to have a coach, but if you did, you would have taken advantage of it. And so this thing that we are trying to anchor to here is this idea of like the runner teachers who are out there, they actually want some support and help. But they don't always know how to ask for it because they are pretty good at what they do. And so sometimes they're not like, I don't know if I really need help. But what they do have is an exciting thing that they want to try or do that they could use some help with. So what do you remember about being a runner? What do you wish that you had as a runner? I'd love to hear that. When you were a runner teacher, what do you wish that you had as support in the classroom? Did you experience this thing I'm talking about of being like left alone because you're just great and everyone loves you? And this is a group of teachers that is really, look at this. I love that. I'm just going to go right off of this. That is really seeking feedback. Rebecca says, I wish I had feedback. I wish I had a sounding board. I wish I had, one says, I did go to the coach. Amazing, amazing. Because not everybody had the privilege of having a coach. But someone to do this with me, someone who was willing to try something new with me, a think tank. I love that. Someone to help me work out the logistics and feedback. I definitely wish I had a thinking partner. And you usually use your peer teachers for this, but you don't always have those, or maybe your relationship with them isn't as great. Definitely a thinking partner that described me 100%. I need guidance other than good job. Okay, exactly. Someone to offer innovative instructional strategies and tools. I did use the coach 2 cycles, 2 different years. That's amazing, Stacey. I'm so glad you had a coach to go to. So when you were a runner teacher, you actually wished you had these things. But we are often, even as coaches, we are quick to forget about our runner teachers and leave them because they're doing so great. So one of the things that we can do is be really mindful about these runner teachers and how we can become more intentional about going after them. So if we're like, okay, so I want to start coaching cycles. I want to start coaching cycles with somebody who I know is going to be willing and interested in working with me. And I want to start with a runner who is somebody who's actually wanting to try something new and isn't as scared. And so what I actually have done, and this is something that has been hard for me to put kind of words to. So I gave it a name tonight so we could talk through it. But what I've really tried to do is be very intentional about connecting with runner teachers. And so and so this, I'm calling it contact work just to give it a term. And that is something that came out of Young Life, which is something that I grew up in Young Life, this idea of contact work, just reaching out to kids and getting to know them. But in this environment, we're talking about reaching out to teachers. And so when you're thinking about your runner teachers, one of the things that you can do is make a list of all your teachers, but really highlight and identify the ones who are, in your mind, your runner teachers. Even though you you are thinking to yourself, she doesn't need any help and she's totally fine. That is actually you not remembering what it's like to be as a runner in the classroom. And so instead, trying to build intentional connections with these teachers. You can do this with any teacher, but I want you to really look for the runners because they're your early adopters. They're the ones who are going to say yes and be willing, and we'll start to break through some resistance if we start to work through the ones who are willing. So connecting with teachers intentionally to listen for ways that you could get the door open for a coaching cycle. Patrice says we call these coaching encounters. I love that. Yes. But I think that there is a couple of things going on as a new coach. One, you're too busy to know what's left from right. And then two, you don't realize that you should be out there looking for an opportunity to get into a coaching cycle with someone. I think sometimes we think they're going to come to us. And just being honest with you, it's been 10 years. Unless she's a runner, she doesn't come to me. I have to go out and find the teachers. And I do that through contact work, which is just intentional conversations with teachers that I am going into and I'm talking to them about anything, whether it's like this, it's cold outside today, or your dog, or something that's going on at home with them. And then that usually leads to a conversation about something they're doing in their classroom. And then that will usually give me an open door of some kind to say, I would love to work with you on that. Do you want to meet about that next week? And so I think before I go into other strategies, I want to make sure we're really honing in on this one, this coaching encounters. Thank you, Patrice, or contact work, or just coaching conversations in general. Are you getting up and going and having these coaching conversations? Now, for those of you who are district level coaches, this is harder for you. Those of you who have multiple buildings, this is harder for you. So you have to think about when you are intentional, or when you are going into the buildings, to be intentional about connecting with certain teachers and kind of plan that in your mind that you're going to go and see these teachers and connect with them, and try to have just a check-in type of conversation. If you're there in the mornings when it's kind of busy and everyone's around, stopping by classrooms, in-person conversations are so powerful to turn just a casual, hey, I meant to ask you about that thing, into a coaching conversation, into a coaching cycle. If we know how to carry it all the way forward, we can get it all the way there. And so I really want to encourage you to really start with these intentional conversations, because this hashtag is one that we use in the group. Every conversation counts. And I truly believe that every conversation that you have with teachers is one more marble in the jar to opening up the door for a deeper coaching conversation. And so I want you to not forget about this really simple and somewhat duh type of strategy that we may not be using as intentionally as we could. I actually think too that you can do some work to track these things and organize them. So I have a Google Doc that I can share with you in a minute here about that. You can just use some of the tools inside of Google to put all of your teachers into a doc. You can use a spreadsheet, whatever you like, and then think about how you are touch pointing with them. Are you thinking about who you've connected with, when you've connected with them, what you connected about, and if that has any potential to turn into a coaching cycle or working together on something? And so I think the intentionality of doing that will actually help you get to the center of the target, meaning to the actual coaching work. I think sometimes we make a checklist of all the things that we need to go do, but do we have a checklist of all the teachers that we need to go talk to? And so I really would love to hear your thoughts on that. If this is something you're already doing, or if this is something that you're like, okay, well, maybe that would help if I was being more intentional about my conversations. Before we go on to some other strategies, I'd love to hear that. Hi, Mandy. Love this. Intentional interactions. Okay, good. A personal goal of mine this year to greet more people in the hallways and making more connections with staff. That's so good. Patrice says, such a great reminder. I need to get back to doing my coaching walks each morning. It can be as simple as this. But let me just tell you, friends, thank you, Patrice, for sharing this, because a coaching walk in the mornings, like this is where I get a lot of my conversations that turn into coaching cycles. I have teachers who will never reach out to me about anything, who, if they see me in the hallway in the morning, that's when it will trigger for them that they had a question for me, or they were going to ask me about this thing, or, hey, can you come by, because I was going to have you look at the way that this student was working in class, or whatever it was. It is when they see you that the thing that they were going to talk to you about triggers. And I'm not saying they don't see you, maybe, but if you're, I know I'm so guilty of this, so I'm not blaming anybody. But if you are busy and heading to your next meeting, that's not a time where it's very easy for you to just stop and talk to them about whatever's on their mind. Like, put it on your schedule to go around and like be available for random chats with teachers, and just wait and see what comes up. And I really hope that you are hearing me on this. Like, this isn't the only strategy, but if you're not doing this strategy, I think you're missing a big opportunity to turn something into a coaching cycle. When you are having these conversations, you are listening for problems, concerns, or things that they need help with. We're not asking, do you need help with anything? But they're saying, well, this student in my class is causing all this trouble, and da 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 da. And whatever they're going on and on about, that's your opportunity to say, oh, I'm so sorry that's going on. Can I come in, tomorrow and take a look, and maybe we can work on it together? Like, do not let those things go by without asking if you can come in the classroom, if they want to have a meeting, if we want to go to the next step. Because I think sometimes the venting that they'll do to us, we're like, oh man, they're just venting all the time. Like, let's work towards taking those venting things and putting them into, oh, Stacey says, that happened to me today. I saw someone and it triggered something for him, and now I'm meeting with him tomorrow. So exactly. This, I think sometimes too, we don't realize it's so organic when it happens like this, but it can also be intentional on our part. Okay, like it is organic because they just saw you in the hallway and they remembered, but you're being intentional. You're looking for opportunities to connect, and then you're looking to turn those into something more robust. I like the idea of turning complaints into conversations and then into solutions. So this is one way to get your foot in the door for a coaching cycle, and for something that is going to be like, okay, so let me come in and see what that looks like. And then from there, a conversation that is like, okay, so maybe we could try a few strategies. Do you want to talk through them? And then it can become a coaching cycle. So what we have to remember too is that a coaching cycle, if we keep it in the informal and not as formal, is really can flow from one conversation in the hallway to one quick classroom stop by to, hey, do you want to work on this together? And then let's come up with a strategy. Okay, let's try it tomorrow. Like, you're in a coaching cycle with her at that point. But I think we think to ourselves, okay, well, I haven't like told her I'm in a coaching cycle. Like, you never really have to tell her that you're in a coaching cycle. Just keep working with her and you're in a coaching cycle. Like, it's not as intense as it has to be. Like, there are steps and there are things we can know about that we can follow and be real intentional, but almost all of that is just on the coach's part. The teacher doesn't even really know what we're doing until it becomes, something that is a lot more of a true partnership. Maybe you're writing down a goal together. Maybe you're looking at data together. Maybe you're tracking when the starting point of student data and the ending point of student data. But none of that has to be this moment where you're like, would you like to start a 12-week coaching cycle with me? And her being like, no, I don't have that time for that, right? So let's start with organic conversations. Their venting caused me to seek out the counselors we've formulated the first grade level meetings on campus and has ever had, and teachers are excited. Okay, good. So using those things, turning them into solutions, looking for ways to get in for coaching cycles for those. I love that. I didn't want to let that simple strategy pass us by as a starting place for how to start coaching cycles. So I really wanted to make sure I started there. Okay, now we're going to talk about another strategy that we can try to enroll the runners into coaching cycles. And this one is tricky in some situations, but we can think about all the different ways that we can use it. So let's talk about the funnel. Okay, let's talk about the funnel. PD is the funnel into one-on-one coaching. PD is the funnel into one-on-one coaching. Let me see if presenting or giving a resource and a great way to bring someone who might be interested also. Yes, good. I'll share a story about that in just a minute. Here. Okay, so PD is the funnel into one-on-one coaching. And what I want us to realize is that we talked about a little bit earlier that PD is not enough. And so when I say PD here, PLCs will work as well, but this particular strategy is a PD specific strategy. So when you're thinking about a PD that you are giving for teachers, let's say you have something that everybody has to attend and it's on like a certain like designated PD date, like you probably did one at the beginning of January, right? So those types of opportunities can turn into coaching cycles. Or if the environment is right and we're really looking for the runners in this situation, or we can design and create an optional PD that might spark a conversation and invite some teachers to come to an optional PD on a specific topic. What happens with this approach is that if you're going to invite teachers into an optional PD, maybe 30 minutes after school, for those of you who are allowed to hold meetings after school, that type of invitation is usually accepted by a runner or a very, interested, willing teacher who is interested in learning this thing that you want to talk about, somebody who has willingness already to work on this or learn about this. If they agree to come to 30 minutes after school, then they are already kind of qualified to be in a coaching cycle with you. And if we can start to entice them to something that they might come to, that could be a conversation starter that can go into becoming a coaching cycle as well. So I've seen this done in a lot of different ways, and I'm going to tell you how I did it recently too. But you can do it as like an after school 30-minute PD. You can do it as a lunch and learn. I had Ricky, one of my members of my Breakthrough Circle, share her story about how she did a lunch and learn invitation. And then they came for lunch and they just brought their own lunch, but they all came to the lunch space. And then they got some resources while they were there and got to chat with the coaches. And then you can really do this in a lot of different ways. I've heard some people doing book studies or article studies. So several people in the NewtoCoaching group have recently said, like, just started a book study. I know my friend Sarah Pike, who's a Breakthrough Circle member, she was doing a book study on an Enneagram book to get teachers to do that. So something that's optional that might help them to opt in and become interested in a topic, and then offering that particular PD for them. Well, if you were to do that, and again, this strategy kind of works still if you are using it with, if you're using it with a PD where everyone is invited to. But the trick of the optional PD is to then take an exit ticket. Okay, so at the end of an optional PD, taking an exit ticket and asking them what it is that they wanted to learn from it, or what was most useful for you, or what was helpful, anything that's going to give you an opportunity to open up the door for the follow-up conversation. You can do this exit ticket strategy at the end of PLCs. You can do it at the end of an optional PD. You can do it at the end of a required PD. It doesn't matter, but whatever way you can get something from them where they can give you a way to follow up, like something that is going to answer the question, here's how you can follow up with me. Like they can say, what was most useful for you? What do you want to work on next? You can ask them some questions that would just prompt them to write something on an exit ticket. And when I say you could do it in a Google form, or you could do it on note cards. I love note cards because it's just handy and easy to do. And then from there, the organic coaching cycle is, here we're going to put this up here. The organic coaching cycle starts with that Kickstart event. So if you look at the top in the Kickstart event, and having that, and then leading that to an exit ticket. And that exit ticket is going to be kind of your golden ticket to get a conversation going with a teacher. And then as we kind of talk a little bit more next Monday, we'll talk a lot more about the follow up conversation, how you can take that conversation and you can turn that into an invitation for a first meeting. But if you can kickstart from a place of looking for the runners and going after those particular runner teachers and then getting some exit data from them as a specific follow up, something that they would like to try, then you can really start and use that to propel your conversation forward into a coaching cycle and asking them for a meeting and then using that meeting to identify a student focused goal and to create opportunity for you to get in their classroom. And so the conversation that gets started in that one place with that exit ticket and Kickstart event can help you to follow up. So let me tell you about how I did this just the other day with a sweet teacher that I've been working with. So this Kickstart PD that I did was a little bit unorthodox. It wasn't just something where I asked them to come 30 minutes after school. I planned a school visit. So we are implementing a new curriculum at my school, and there's only like one other school who is using it in our because we're independent school. So one other independent school who's using it, who is kind of very much like us, but they were like 2 hours away. And so I was like, okay, I really want to go on this school visit. I'm going to go regardless, but I would really love to take some teachers with me. Well, I've got to get a teacher to agree to go on a school visit that's 2 hours away and do a 2-hour drive in the morning and go for the school visit and then go back in the afternoon. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's no way they're going to agree to this. There's just no way. Like, even if you do get to see the curriculum and another school, there's just no way. Well, anyway, I decided I was going to throw it out there anyway. Does anyone want to come with me on this school visit? Well, thankfully, I actually had several who wanted to come with me on the school visit. I was very excited. But so I had 3 or 4 who wanted to come. And as we were there, so that even just the invite conversation. So let me just make sure I'm including all of the pieces, because even the invite conversation was, I sent an email that said, this is what we're doing. But then I went around to the teachers and said, hey, you think you're interested? Did you see my email? Did you want to maybe come to that with me? So I personally invited them. And when I ran into this teacher, she is our pre-first teacher. And so she had used to teach first grade, and she actually came down to pre-first, which is kind of like / kindergarten. So she came down to that level. And so she's been new in that grade level. And so I had told her that there was another teacher who was pre-first at this other school, and she was so excited to go and see another teacher teaching the same curriculum at a school like ours. Okay, she was very excited to come. So that in-person touch point with her about, do you want to come? And then her saying yes. And then like there were several other little conversations about, okay, are we riding together and how are we going to get there? Like, that seems small, but those are all relationship building conversations. The whole process of getting everybody signed up for this trip 2 hours away. So we get there and we do the learning walks, and we also had a rep there from the curriculum who was kind of giving us some little bit of training in between all of it, and it was so good. Well, while we were there, she saw something that she wanted to try in her classroom, and she told me while we were there that she wanted to try that with her students, and she felt like her students could do that, but she hadn't had an opportunity to do that yet. And so she told me while we were on the visit. So of course, when we got back to school the next day and all that, I followed up with her, and I remember I saw her in the copy room. It was like walking from the copy room to what we have is our cafeteria. And she was like, super quickly was like, hey, yeah, I wanted to meet with you about that thing that we saw the other day, and I'd really love to do that. Okay, but like, it was such a quick flyby conversation. And in that flyby, I said, okay, great, I'll come to your planning tomorrow. And that was it. And that was the opportunity for me to get into the first meeting of a coaching cycle with her. Did I tell her at any point, like, hey, we're going to start a coaching cycle, you want to start tomorrow? Like, no, it was the organic conversational, catch you in the hallway. Hey, I want to talk to you about that. Okay, great. I'm coming to your class period, to your planning tomorrow. And then I did. And so then I went to her planning, We talked about what she wanted to create and do. We talked about how she was planning her time and her minutes in her reading block. We talked about what she wanted to do with the time, but that she felt like it wasn't going to go the way that we were drawing it out. And I was like, okay, great, no problem. I'm going to come to your class tomorrow. And so I did. I went to her class. I watched her teach the reading lesson. And then she tried the new strategy, getting the kids to read independently. And then they transitioned to small group. And so, like, I watched the whole reading block. And so I was sitting there, and I was helping kids while they were doing small group, but I was sitting there tracking the times. I was timing just how long it was taking to do this and this and this to see if it matched up with what we did. Okay, so then halfway through, they had recess. So, like, there was a recess break in the middle of the reading block. And you would think that she would go out to recess, but she was so excited about trying this strategy that she came in and she was like, so what do you think? Do you think it worked? And I was like, well, yeah, I think it worked. What do you think? And so we had a debrief meeting right there in the middle, standing there in her classroom, waiting for her kids to walk out for recess. Now, we then had a further debrief meeting later during her next planning. I said, let me come to your planning. We'll write it out again and we'll try it again the next day. And so, again, we had to do several iterations of the time breakdown for this implementation. But what it did is that it allowed her to take something that she learned about in a PD, this happened to be a school visit PD, and implement it in her classroom. But she really, maybe she could have done it on her own. I'm not saying she couldn't have, but the work that we got to do together, the partnership work of planning it, trying it, talking through it, trying it again, that happened multiple times. And then there was a week or two where I wasn't really as involved. I was working with another teacher, came back. The idea of an ongoing partnership is that I can see her in the hallway and ask, how is it going with small groups? How's it going with this reading, the reading time? And she will tell me, it's kind of working. I don't know. Could you come back tomorrow? Because I want you to look at this thing. I'm like, of course I can. Our coaching cycle didn't really end because it's still ongoing. And then we had a data meeting this week. And I said, oh, I can't wait to come by and see you and help you with that. With your student, with your small group plan, because I know that we want to tweak that. And that partnership is still open. It's not really like closed. And now I'm working with her on the small group and how she's planning those. And so this is how it feels when I'm trying to get a coaching cycle started with the teacher. It starts with a PD. It goes to the follow-up, it goes to the first meeting, and then it goes to working on something together that then may have some different iterations. And then it may have like a break between this and the next thing that she wants to work on together. But I keep myself available. The other thing that I do is I do weekly meetings. So when we were more intensely in that for 3 or 4 weeks, I just kept coming back on Tuesdays at 12:15 because that was her planning. And I would come on Tuesday. And then between the Tuesdays, then I would go to her classroom and help her implement. And so creating a weekly rhythm it was really helpful. It's been really helpful for me since I've started coaching. It's one of the things that has been like a go-to for me is like, do you just want to set up a weekly meeting? And I don't even always say that, y'all. I just sometimes I'm like, hey, do you want to meet again next week, same time? And see if it still works for that teacher to keep going and keep working on something together. Okay, tell me about I'm going to tell you one more story while you tell me what has been most useful for you about everything that we've been talking about tonight. I just keep talking and talking. I want to hear more from you, though. Tell me what has been most useful for you. Maybe something from that example was helpful. I'll tell you one more, and then we'll wrap up for tonight. But I do want to tell you a couple other exciting things. So stay on with me. So one more story. I had a teacher come to me. This is one of my runner teachers that I've worked with before. So this was not a new coaching cycle thing, but we had a little bit of time span in between. And she came to me and she said she wanted to work on, she wanted to improve the grammar instruction in her upcoming writing unit. And I was so excited and so ready to like work with her on that. But I could have just sent her an email with some resources, right? I could have just said like, hey, yeah, here's some things, try this. But instead I like got up from my desk, I grabbed my favorite grammar book and I went running to her room because she's a runner. And I knew that she wanted to like dig into this. This wasn't just like, hey, Allison, you got an idea you can share. Like, no, she wanted to dig in. So we had a little chat and then I said, okay, let's meet next week. And it was just a short chat. Here's an idea. Here's a book. Let me give you something. Let's schedule a time to meet. That led to a Friday morning meeting. And now in the last 3 weeks, we have met every Friday and we've been working on her grammar instruction. We've been working on a rubric for her writing. And we've been working on designing her writing lessons for 7th and 8th grade. And so that has been all came out of just this, she came to me and said that she wanted to work on this grammar thing, but I was like, let's meet about it. And I could have just helped her with the grammar, but by having more conversations, I realized maybe we should work on a rubric, and we started working on that. So out of those conversations led to more work that we could do together, and it continues to be around the goal. So, okay, some of these things are coming in. Pour energy into the runners. Yes, absolutely. Ron Clark says that you can spend hours and hours and hours working on getting a rider to put his feet down and walk, or you can spend 10 minutes pouring into a runner and she will just propel the bus forward. So this is so worth it. I'm so glad that was helpful for you. How to organically begin the coaching cycle. I love the frequent conversations, lead into coaching sessions, optional PD with the exit ticket. I've started joining co-teacher meetings and collaborating on lesson planning. I love that. I learned so much tonight and I struggle with timely follow-up across 5 schools. This is hardest for the district coach for sure. And so it is really tough on you. But the Kickstart PD actually works beautifully for a district coach because you can send that out to all of the teachers and then you can invite them to come. And it doesn't have to be in person. If you have that many buildings, try doing a virtual PD that they can join. Try doing a book study on Marco Polo. Like, no joke, it's a great tool. You could have them reading a book and you guys can have the discussion on Marco Polo. If they will buy into that, it's an amazing tool. So for our district coaches who it's harder to get to people face-to-face with, PD exit tickets this year, I met with teachers to create their SMART goals. And I use that info to kickstart my coaching cycles without even calling them coaching cycles. Elizabeth and I have been working together for like a year now. She knows the drill. I'm so glad you're sharing that, Elizabeth. Thank you. She's in my breakthrough circle. I have 15 schools I work with. I haven't done morning coaching walk. Yeah, I could do some of that. Yeah. Okay. I love that. I love that. I love that. Thinking about when it might work for you, keeping it less formal, following up, book study sessions with Kickstart events. Yes. No, in the morning coaching walk, Patrice, jump in, or whoever else wanted to share. We're just talking about walking the hallway. That to me is just talking about walking the hallway and stopping by and checking in with teachers. You're not popping in and like observing at that time. You're just literally like, hey, how's your morning? And then you see like what comes out of that answer. Or how are students doing today? Or how's your morning going? Or what do you got going on today in your classroom? Any question that will get her talking about what she's doing instructionally that might give you an in. Even if your in is, oh my gosh, I'd love to come see that. Can I come to that lesson today? What time is that at? Like, that could also be an opportunity for you to get in. Yes. Who are you talking to and checking in on? Yes. I'm going to tell you some exciting news. Okay. So all this and so much more is going to be in my new book that is coming out in April. It's Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles, and I'm thrilled to be announcing it officially here with you. I'm so excited. So my new book is coming out, and it is going to be the guide for you to kickstart your coaching cycles. It is specifically for new coaches so that you can break through and do this work that we've been talking about, especially the idea of the runners and the Kickstart PD? And then what do you do when you get into the coaching cycle, when you're actually having that first meeting? What kind of questions are you asking? How do you do the debrief meeting? Like a lot more in depth is going to show up in here. So I'm so excited. This is just a win for the NewtoCoaching community, because the reason that I'm writing it and the reason that it will be out and it is going to be in your hands is because you need it, because the community has been looking for answers to this question. And so it is really all about you and this, just trying to get this out into your hands. So I'm really looking forward to that. Oh, look, I want to do a book study on your book in the Breakthrough Circle. Yes, it'll be great when it's out. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is I want you to know that I have right now, I have the NewtoCoaching Club open for you to get a lot more about coaching cycles from. This is the best place for you to get all of the resources for coaching cycles. Everything we've talked through tonight, I have a full online course with over 20 videos in it and a full course workbook. You can see here on the slide. I'm going to make it bigger for you here. On the slide, that you have the workbook, you have the full online course, and then you have over 40 other videos that are in this online resource as well. It's all of these videos that I have done that are teaching new coaches how to get started and then how to start coaching cycles. And so those videos are all in one place and they're in the NewtoCoaching Club. And this is just an online resource library where you can watch these videos on your own time, at your own pace, completely self-paced learning. But there is a really great app on your phone called Kajabi where you can get to, and so you can get these on the go and you can have access to them. And so this is a place too where you are getting access to NewtoCoaching replays. It's just kind of like exclusive access to NewtoCoaching. That's what it is. You're in the club. So I really would love for you to consider joining, because it's over $400, $500 worth of value available for you in this NewtoCoaching Club. But right now it's available for $15 a month. So I want you to consider joining so you have access to all of the videos about the coaching cycles. In the challenge this week, we're going to be talking about some of these things, but we won't get into depth about how to do the first coaching meeting or the debrief meeting, and you won't have the workbook and these other resources. So it's going to help you if you grab your membership to the club this week. So if you're looking for just more examples of how teachers, coaches are using this to enroll teachers into coaching cycles, you'll find them in the club. About coaching cycles beyond what we talked about tonight, then I recommend that you get into the club, get access for $15. That's less than the price of one book, and go and watch some more of the videos this week as a part of the challenge. So go and check out the NewtoCoaching Club this week. Here's what we'll do to round out tonight and then to head forward with the challenge. So your first challenge as a part of the challenge this week is to create a list of your teachers and highlight the ones that you want to connect with. Specifically, who do you want to connect with? Mark the ones that you feel like are your runners so that you can really have them high on your radar and be really thinking about how you're going to have those personal connections with them this week. And then as we get through the week, I'm also going to challenge you to think about your topic for a possible Kickstart PD, and so that you can get some more things started. So this week, as you're in the group, I want you to share your coaching conversation wins. So if you have an amazing coaching conversation with a teacher, I would love for you to write up a quick little summary of it and post it in the group and let us know, because that opportunity that you have with that teacher, if you will just say, hey, do you want to meet about that? You can turn it into the first meeting of a coaching cycle. Words that you're leaving with tonight: motivated, empowered, contact, love it. Morning convos, love that. Breakthrough, Alana, that's your word for the year. Love it. Then motivated, runners, keep it casual. Absolutely. Passion. Good. So glad. So excited that y'all were here with me tonight. Thank you for staying on for the night. And let's keep the conversation going this week in the NewtoCoaching group for Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles Challenge. Ready to run. Thank you. Can't wait to buy your book. Just got to get it out so that it's ready for you to buy it. I'm so glad. So for now, since I don't have the book ready, go to the NewtoCoaching Club. become a member and watch the videos. It will give you tons and tons of support. I will see you next Monday night. We will meet again. We will touch base. We will see how you're doing with those coaching cycles, and cannot wait to hear how your coaching cycles go this week.